And I've been in this motherfucker since 2003, right? Because that's when I got signed to Aftermath, 2003. If you ask anybody, anybody that really know me that's in this motherfucker industry, and go ask Dr. Dre, man. Like, sit Dr. Dre down and really ask that about who I am and my character and, like what he really feel about me at the end of the day as a man.
Too much 50 Cent, not enough West Coast rap. JC! I said JC! You old. You old. I will.
When have you ever heard an Eminem song in the club? I don't hear Eminem in the streets. I'm just a better rapper.
I can't get no loving in public.
No affection.
No holding hands, no kiss,
You are giving me $10 million.
Let's go. Who's gonna give you $10 million?
Jayceon Taylor,
also known as
The Game.
Let's go.
Is giving me $10 million.
It all kicked off with what looked like a flashy play. Listen to this, a VH1 dating show built around The Game, where women were competing for his love like it was the hottest designer drop. Back in 2015, he was riding that reality TV wave, trying to flip his street credibility into a polished Bachelor-style image. And on paper, it made perfect sense. The show, She's Got Game, felt like a mashup of The Bachelor and Love and Hip Hop, with The Game positioned as the ultimate prize everybody was chasing. But hold up, behind all the stage drama and manufactured romance, something very real went down, and it didn't just fade away, it came back swinging at his entire empire. One contestant, Priscilla Rainey, wasn't just there to play along for the cameras, and that's where everything took a serious turn. She ended up becoming the biggest legal threat The Game had ever faced, and you won't believe how fast things escalated. During a night out in Chicago while filming, Rainey accused him of crossing a line in public, claiming he groped her multiple times. According to her, it didn't stop there. She alleged he lifted her skirt and embarrassed her in front of a crowd inside a sports bar, turning what should have been TV drama into a real-life legal nightmare.
Let's clear that up now. I'm not screaming. He did not me. But what he did do is touch 3 times and told me shut the up before I eliminate you, and then pulled my up in front of a crowd of people in Chicago at a club with the lights on and people taking pictures. To the point that 3 cameramen walked off set and quit because they got daughters and wives at home, and they said he's a piece of.
After that, everything flipped. Listen to this, because even though Rainey didn't win the show, she rewrote the ending in real life. In August 2015, she came straight at The Game with a sexual battery lawsuit, accusing him of assaulting her off camera during filming. Now hold up, because this is where it really spirals. Instead of stepping up and fighting the case, he completely avoided the situation. He ignored court documents, dodged subpoenas, and treated the whole lawsuit like it was nothing serious. One process server even said he attempted to deliver the paperwork 41 times and still couldn't get it to him, which already tells you how far this went. The judge wasn't playing with that kind of behavior, and since The Game never responded, the court moved forward without him. That's when the hammer dropped. A default judgment was issued against him. And just like that, he was ordered to pay Priscilla Rainey $7.13 million. Most people would have at least tried to show up, negotiate, or defend themselves in some way. But he stayed silent until it was way too late, and that decision ended up costing him everything.
If you could ask Nip himself, he would have told you, and he did tell you out his own mouth of what, I contributed, to his career. Coming straight out of Westside Cedar Block, Bompton, and Top Dog know what it is, Kendrick know what it is, Mustard know what it is, Ty Dolla $ign know what it is, Dr. Dre know what it is, Snoop know what it is.
Even after the judgment dropped, he still didn't move like it was real. Listen to this. The Game hopped on Instagram and went on a reckless, insult-heavy rant aimed straight at Rainey. He mocked her appearance, threw out disrespectful labels, and flat out denied ever touching her, even calling her a liar with a criminal past. But hold up, none of that held any weight where it actually mattered. The court had already made its decision, and Rainey wasn't letting up for a second. She shifted into full attack mode, taking every legal step possible to collect that $7 million by any means necessary.
I want to be with my girl all day, every day.
I can't be with him 24/7, I'm sorry.
Sadida couldn't keep a promise if her life depended on it.
So what?
I can't get no loving in public.
No affection.
No holding hands, no kiss, no.
She went straight into attack mode. Listen to this. subpoenaing his companies, digging through his assets, and tearing into his entire financial ecosystem piece by piece. She even secured court approval to pull money directly from his independent label, La Prolific, which should have been a major warning sign right there. When the game tried to flip it and sue Viacom, claiming they were responsible for casting Rainey despite her past, that move backfired completely. He was chasing $20 million, but instead, the court dismissed the case and ordered him to cover Viacom's legal fees on top of everything else. That's when the situation really started slipping out of his control. By 2020, Rainey wasn't just going after accounts. Hold up, she started targeting the music itself. The judge granted her full rights to any income tied to LA Prolific, including royalties from Born to Rap, the album he had been pushing as his grand finale. She didn't just take a percentage, she took everything connected to that stream of money. Every payment, every stream, every future dollar tied to that label was redirected straight into her hands. Anyone who owed him money now had to pay her directly, no exceptions. Imagine pouring your heart into a project, promoting it as your legacy, only to watch every dollar get rerouted to the person who sued you. This turned into one of the most ruthless financial takedowns the industry has seen, and it was unfolding in real time. From lawsuits to full-on label seizures, he was losing grip on everything he built. Now, when the courts start taking your masters and tracking every dollar, that's usually when reality hits. But not here. He kept acting like it was all smoke and mirrors, posting about being broke, joking about driving a Kia, and moving like none of this was actually affecting him. Meanwhile, Rainey stayed relentless, pushing for access to every asset tied to his name. She accused him of hiding money through his manager, Wack 100, and even subpoenaed his cannabis business, Trees by Game LLC, trying to expose the full paper trail. She argued he was using shell companies to make it seem like he had nothing, when in reality, there was more behind the curtain. By 2022, things escalated to a wild level. She allegedly even subpoenaed his child's school just to confirm his location and serve him directly.
Every time he tried to dodge, she found another angle, and somehow it kept working in her favor. In this slow, grinding battle, she was winning step by step without letting up. By 2023, the whole situation didn't even look like a normal case anymore. It looked like a slow-motion collapse. She had already taken control of the Born to Rap income stream, but even that wasn't enough to cover the $7.1 million debt. His label was struggling, other ventures weren't bringing in enough revenue, and the gap wasn't closing. She claimed she had only recovered around $500,000 by that point, less than 10% of what she was owed, which means this fight was far from over. So she kept the pressure on. Listen to this. Rainey's legal team pushed harder, demanding more financial records while accusing him of playing shell games with his money to avoid paying up. They argued he had stripped ownership from himself completely. No cars, no companies, not even his home were officially in his name anymore. Instead, everything was allegedly parked under Wack 100 or tied up in LLCs he still controlled behind the scenes. And from the court's perspective, hold up, that didn't look smart. It looked like a setup. That's when things jumped to a whole different level. Rainey is locked in his Calabasas mansion. That property was one of the last major assets still loosely connected to him, valued somewhere between $3.2 to $4 million, and it basically represented what he had left from his peak. But she wasn't easing up. She filed to have the house seized and sold to chip away at the debt. He pushed back aggressively, claiming it was his primary residence and was protected under homestead laws. He argued he'd been living there consistently, and losing it would leave him with nothing. But Rainey's team came with a different narrative. They said the property was just another layer in the asset hiding strategy, possibly transferred to Wack 100 as a gift to keep it out of reach, with no actual money exchanged, which is a huge red flag in court. The judge wasn't entertaining excuses either. By mid-2025, the order came down to sell the property. The Calabasas home was officially cleared for seizure, marking one of the final blows in a legal battle that had been building for nearly a decade. Now pause for a second and really think about this. How many rappers have lost their label income, publishing, royalties, and their home, all from one case? Not many. And here's the wildest part. You won't believe this. It didn't even come from losing a full trial. It all spiraled because he didn't show up. That's what makes this hit different. He skipped court, avoided service, and moved as the situation would disappear on its own. Instead, it snowballed into what might be the worst financial decision of his career.
While all this was happening, his music output slowed down and his brand started losing momentum. No major tours, no chart-dominating projects, just occasional headlines tied to social media rants or industry drama. It's like he shifted from being a respected West Coast figure to a full-on cautionary tale. And not a quick one either. This is like watching a slow leak sink a ship over time. The damage didn't stop with him either. Everyone connected to his ecosystem felt it. His label team, collaborators, investors, even people close to him personally. Wack 100, his longtime manager and a loud voice in hip-hop media, ended up right in the middle of it. Rainey's legal team accused him directly of helping move and hide assets, including the Calabasas property. They painted him as a frontman used to shield the game from the financial fallout. In response, Wack went on a media run, doing interviews with DJ Academics and others, trying to explain the situation. But let's be real, the explanations didn't fully clear anything up. At that point, nobody could clearly say what was owned by whom anymore, and the court definitely wasn't buying the idea that the game had nothing left. From a legal standpoint, when you start shifting assets into companies, trusts, or other people's names to dodge a judgment, that's called fraudulent conveyance, and courts take that seriously. In simple terms, Rainey had the legal edge, and she wasn't letting go until every dollar was accounted for. Meanwhile, he kept moving like he still had something to prove. He'd pop out with music or features here and there, but the energy had changed. His image wasn't about legacy anymore. It was about controversy and defiance. He stayed loud on social media, downplayed the lawsuit, and kept insisting he was financially solid. But at this point, hold up. The public wasn't seeing it that way anymore.
I lost the best thing that ever happened to me, but now I think I'm ready to find that special someone. And I'm gonna give her 100% of everything that I got.
Game is looking for love.
You're gonna step into my life and take this journey.
And he's bringing 10 lucky ladies along for the ride. She's Got Game. New series premieres Monday, August 10th at 9.
But the court records told a completely different story. Listen to this. Everything he was connected to was under a microscope. Even when he linked up with Kanye West in 2022, rumors started circulating that the profits from those collaborations were being redirected straight to Rainey. And hold up, that level of reach shows just how far her claim extended. Legally, she was entitled to collect every dollar until the full judgment was satisfied, which meant every stream, every check, and every merch sale tied to LA Prolific or anything associated with him after the ruling was going directly to her. At that point, you have to ask, how do you even stage a comeback when every move you make is financially tethered? As 2025 arrived, the entire situation had evolved into a non-stop legal battle with no clear ending. After losing his home through a court order and watching his music revenue get redirected, he made another attempt to push back. His legal team argued to block the seizure of his Calabasas mansion, claiming he was never properly served with notice. And yes, he tried to argue that he wasn't even aware that the court was moving against his property, even though the case had been active for nearly a decade. Meanwhile, Rainey's side came prepared with documentation, claiming they even subpoenaed his child's high school to verify his residence and track down his location for service. That's how far they were willing to go just to keep the process moving. At this point, this wasn't just legal work anymore. It was full-on tracking and investigation. Rainey and her team were actively pursuing any asset tied to him that could legally be claimed. You'd expect that kind of pressure to force some level of accountability, but instead, he doubled down on the narrative that he had little to nothing. In interviews, he claimed that the cars he drove and the jewelry he wore were rented or borrowed, making it seem like he didn't truly own anything. And legally speaking, that may have aligned with how his assets were structured, but Rainey wasn't convinced. She escalated the case by filing motions to hold him in contempt of court for ignoring subpoenas, concealing income, and using shell companies to protect assets.
Her claims were serious. She alleged that music revenue, brand deals, and other income streams were being funneled through entities linked to Wack 100 or unknown partners. At that point, the situation started to look less like simple financial mismanagement and more like an intentional attempt to avoid payment. But the court wasn't persuaded by the defenses. With assets already seized and income streams rerouted, the judgment remained largely unpaid. That $7.1 million obligation loomed over every step he took like a constant shadow. By then, his relationship with the legal system had effectively broken down. Judges described aspects of his conduct as deeply concerning, and attempts to secure new trials were denied. He could no longer claim ignorance of the situation. At that stage, the only real option left was delay, but even that strategy was collapsing. His public image, once tied to authenticity and West Coast pride, had shifted into something else entirely, something closer to a running example of courtroom evasion and resistance. He had once taken shots at major figures like Eminem and Dr. Dre, but later found himself navigating subpoenas with the same energy people use to avoid conflict, and the contrast didn't go unnoticed. And remember, this is the same person who once said Kanye West did more for him in a short period than Dre did throughout his entire career. That statement hasn't aged well, because while Kanye may have provided moments and opportunities, Dr. Dre helped build the foundation of his career. Now that same career was under strain, weighed down by legal obligations and a damaged reputation. Fans who once supported him were now watching everything unfold like a slow-moving public case study. Even Born to Rap, the project he promoted as his final and most personal work, ended up becoming a major turning point negatively. It didn't meet commercial expectations, and on top of that, every dollar generated from it was legally redirected to Priscilla Rainey, turning what was supposed to be a career milestone into part of the financial fallout.
It seems like the whole mess, the fight, is Priscilla's fault. And that ain't really sitting well with me.
You got some girls who
Want me to go home, of course.
want you to go home.
I can't believe everyone's making such a big deal about me cussing out Sierra. She deserved it.
Imagine putting your heart and soul into a retirement album, building it up through interviews, teasers, and press runs, only to watch someone else walk away with the profits. And it wasn't just about royalties. Rainey held the rights to the label itself, LA Prolific, which meant future projects, new signings, and even merch revenue was tied up under her control until the debt was resolved. With no major industry breakthrough since 2015's The Documentary 2, the revenue stream slowed to a point where it couldn't keep pace with what was owed. That left him stuck. No momentum, no expansion, just lawsuits, losses, and loud Instagram posts that seemed more like deflection than direction. Now look at the street perspective of it. In the rap world, once people sense financial instability, the response is usually distance or opportunism. The respect he once carried in LA circles started to fade. He wasn't even invited to the Pop Out concert, one of the biggest West Coast hip-hop events in years, and that absence said more than words ever could. This was someone once viewed as a key figure in the West Coast resurgence, yet the newer generation didn't even see him as essential enough to include. Online discussions pointed to the lawsuits, the Kanye ties, and past behavior catching up, but the outcome was the same. His presence was no longer prioritized. His credibility had been eroded by ongoing legal battles and public missteps, shifting his reputation from artist to controversy magnet. In an industry driven heavily by perception, being seen as desperate or financially compromised makes recovery difficult. While many artists in that position would retreat, restructure, or quietly rebuild, he continued to chase visibility, just not in ways that strengthened his position. Instead of consistent releases or strategic growth, the focus leaned toward attention-grabbing moments, unfiltered interviews, lengthy social posts, and public associations with high-profile figures like Kanye. It created noise, but not progress. Beneath that surface activity was a deeper financial unraveling that many observers could already see unfolding. When Rainey secured control of the label, the typical response would have been to pivot, start a new imprint, renegotiate pathways, or rebuild through streaming strategies. That didn't happen. The narrative he projected publicly still suggested stability, while official records told a very different story. Fans noticed the disconnect as well. Streaming activity slowed, merchandise presence weakened, and his name only trended when legal updates or financial concerns resurfaced. What was once a dominant presence in rap culture began to appear more in headlines tied to setbacks than to music. Over time, that shift changed how the industry viewed him. Executives became more cautious, understanding that working with someone whose assets could be entangled mid-project introduced risk. Even collaborations became complicated, as revenue from features or releases could potentially be redirected through legal claims tied to the label.
What about you, Firestarter? You good?
I'm good. No fire started today. So it sounds to me like they're trying to trash me in front of Jayceon to make me look like a fire starter. You know what? Let's go.
That kind of situation doesn't just damage a career. It spreads like a warning sign. Nobody wants to align themselves with ongoing legal battles. That's the reality the game was facing. A rapper who couldn't release music without the risk of earnings being tied up or redirected through court action. Even fans started questioning how someone who once headlined major tours and dropped multi-platinum projects could end up in a position where renting cars and avoiding legal notices became part of the public narrative. The explanation wasn't a single misstep. It was a gradual collapse built on repeated poor decisions. Ignoring legal actions, publicly mocking the opposing side, evading court requirements, and allegedly shielding assets all compounded into a situation that became increasingly difficult to recover from. And this didn't unfold quietly. Rainey pursued her case publicly and strategically, appearing on platforms like Power 105 and This Is 50, where she laid out her side of the story in detail. Through those interviews, she brought forward claims about behind-the-scenes production tactics, including allegations that elements of the show were scripted and that manufactured drama was used to drive attention. Whether every detail was accepted or debated, the effect was clear. Her narrative gained traction and shifted public perception. At that stage, the conflict moved beyond right versus wrong and became about leverage. Rainey maintained momentum through the legal system, while also controlling the flow of information in the public sphere. She wasn't just making claims, she was backing them with filings, subpoenas, and documented moves that steadily built her position. Meanwhile, the game continued presenting an image of stability through social posts and displays of wealth that didn't always align with the underlying financial reality. The situation began to resemble a mismatch in strategy, one side treating it like a legal and procedural battle, the other treating it more like a public narrative war. That gap in approach mattered. Legal disputes aren't won through optics alone, they're won through documentation, compliance, and consistency. In that sense, Rainey's methodical approach allowed her to stay ahead in a way that public-facing tactics couldn't match. The involvement of his manager, WAC 100, added another layer of complexity. Court filings and accusations brought his name into discussions around financial handling and asset movement. Whether those claims held weight or not, the association itself amplified scrutiny. His participation in interviews and online discussions, including appearances on platforms like Clubhouse, only kept the conversation active. Each attempt to clarify or defend seemed to generate more attention, pulling additional eyes into an already volatile situation. As more legal documents surfaced, separating verified facts from speculation became increasingly difficult for the public. But from Rainey's perspective, the focus remained unchanged, pursuing the full amount she believed she was owed. Her actions, filing motions, issuing subpoenas, and following through on enforcement weren't driven by public opinion, but by the objective of securing a legal outcome. At that point, the case had evolved into something larger than a personal dispute. It became a demonstration of how sustained legal pressure, when executed consistently, can define the trajectory of a prolonged financial conflict.
I really like Priscilla, but some just don't feel.
You step out of line in court, you're going to pay. No exceptions. And here's the part that really raises eyebrows. The game still behaved like he had plenty of room to maneuver. Even when the court pushed through the home sale, even when his labels slipped out of his control, even when Rainey had already secured $500,000 in earnings, he kept pushing back. He kept submitting motions, denying service, and requesting exemptions. But the court had already grown tired of the delays. Judges weren't entertaining the excuses anymore. You had a full decade to respond, and now you're claiming ignorance? That didn't hold up. Meanwhile, as all of this unfolded, his new releases failed to generate momentum, failed to spark conversation, and failed to get any real promotional push. Listeners had already shifted their attention elsewhere. The energy on the streets had gone quiet. Even the bloggers who once amplified his name only brought him up when another legal filing surfaced. From being a dominant West Coast figure to becoming a warning sign about pride and delay, he lost ground in a way that became widely discussed. And through every twist, Priscilla Rainey continued moving forward. Each postponement, each ignored ruling, only strengthened her position further. By May 2025, everything reached a breaking point. The court officially moved to have his Calabasas property sold to satisfy the $7.13 million judgment. At that stage, it was no longer hypothetical. It was happening. His final major asset was being taken away, and even then, it still wouldn't fully cover what he owed. The property was projected to sell for around $3.2 million, leaving Rainey still owed close to $4 million after the transaction. With his label taken over, royalties redirected, and several assets reportedly held under other names, there was no straightforward way for him to settle the remainder. It looked like someone trapped in quicksand, struggling more with every attempt to break free. No matter how many motions he filed, no matter how many interviews he gave, or how often he claimed financial hardship, the legal system remained firm. Every dollar he earned was accounted for.
every attempt at a comeback ran into legal barriers. His career was technically still active, but heavily restricted. Even after the house was gone, the situation didn't settle. Rainey's legal team continued digging deeper, alleging that funds were still being moved through shell entities and linked associates like WAC 100 and others. They showed no signs of backing off until every possible source was uncovered. Some reports even suggested subpoenas were issued to publishing firms, financial institutions, and business partners to track additional income streams. This wasn't about stripping him bare. It was about enforcing a ruling that had gone unaddressed for nearly 10 years. A ruling that likely wouldn't have existed if he had simply appeared in court and responded early on. That's where the real tragedy sits. He didn't lose because his argument was weak. He lost because he failed to respect the process. He ignored it, challenged it, and assumed it couldn't reach him. But it did, and when it finally caught up, it cost him his label, his catalog, his home, and possibly his long-term future as an independent artist. And to be clear, this isn't about declaring him innocent or guilty. That judgment belongs to public perception. What actually matters here is the takeaway. When you're dealing with a legal case, especially one of this magnitude, you have to show up. You have to respond. You can't publicly dismiss the other party on social media and expect the courtroom to stay silent. And you definitely can't attempt to conceal assets and expect to avoid consequences. That kind of approach only intensifies scrutiny and leads to harsher outcomes. It can turn a manageable issue into a full-blown financial collapse. The game didn't just lose a lawsuit, he lost leverage, the kind of leverage required to stay stable in an industry that can quickly overwhelm those who mismanage the business side. From projects like his documentary to Born to Rap, he had opportunities to solidify his legacy. Instead of legacy, the narrative shifted toward legal battles, and both stories stay attached in public memory. That's the real disappointment in all of this. So in 2025, his name isn't trending because of music releases, viral verses, or touring announcements.
It's trending because the system has already made significant ground. And now people are watching closely to see what remains. Will he recover? Can he rebuild from here? Or will this chapter define the closing stretch of his hip-hop journey? He still possesses talent, no question, but without ownership, without assets, and without financial flexibility, his options are limited. It stands as one of the most dramatic declines the genre has witnessed, from top-tier discussions to legal transcripts, from packed venues to seized property. And it didn't have to unfold this way. One court appearance, one proper response, one transparent approach could have altered everything. But the long game was handled poorly. And now the only path forward is managing the aftermath. Whether he manages to return, only time will tell. If you followed through to this point, respect. This entire situation has been intense, complicated, and full of takeaways. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Should he have handled things differently? Was Rainey justified in pursuing full recovery? Do you believe he still has a chance to make a comeback after everything that's happened? Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, and share this breakdown if you found the story shocking, unfortunate, or hard to believe. More breakdowns, more rap industry stories, and deeper analysis are on the way.